How do we
Sure.
appeal to non-Catholic
Sure.
Christians when it comes to faith and science working together? Many Christians seem to believe that faith and science are mutually exclusive. I assume you don't agree.
No, I don't agree at all. It's a contention that a lot of atheists have been trying to make, that faith and science are even in conflict with one another. And the Magis Institute has really been trying to move beyond that notion by showing all kinds of points of complementarity. So where do faith and science touch one another? One of the key areas that they touch is in the area of a beginning of our universe, or even a beginning of reality itself. And in a lot of our future programs, we're going to be talking about some of these remarkable confluences. There's a proof called the Borda-Vilenkin and Guth proof, which shows not only that our universe has to have a beginning, but also shows that even if there were a multiverse would have a beginning. Even if there was a higher dimensional space universe in string theory, even that would have to have a beginning. Even bouncing universes or oscillating universes that expand and contract and expand and contract, they would even have to have a beginning. So you actually have what's called a space-time geometry proof called the Borda-Vilenkin and Guth proof that actually shows that all of these different universal configurations need a beginning. Now, if you could actually get really close through science to the beginning of physical reality itself, then prior to that beginning, physical reality was nothing. And if you don't sneak something into nothing, right? If you don't try and make nothing empty space, which of course is ridiculous. Empty space is something. You can have more or less of empty space, but you can't have more or less of nothing. So if you don't sneak any, something into nothing, then when physical reality was nothing prior to the beginning, then the only thing it could have done was nothing, because the only thing nothing can do is nothing. And if that were the case, then something else would have had to have moved the entirety of physical reality from nothing to something, because it could not have moved itself from nothing to something, because when it was nothing, the only thing it could do was nothing. So this idea of proving a beginning of physical reality, the idea of proving a beginning of the physical universe is exceedingly important. And the Borda-Vilenkin and Guth proof, three fine physicists, Alan Guth from MIT, Alexander Vilenkin from, he's the director of the Institute of Cosmology at Tufts University in Boston, and Arvind Borda, who's from the University of California, Santa Barbara, Kavli Institute. These three physicists came up with a really important proof. The entropy evidence today, that's another area I can't go into today, but there's another area of establishing not only the beginning of our universe, but the beginning of all of these other hypothetical configurations, and they're completely hypothetical, right? We don't have a scintilla of evidence for multiverse, but nevertheless, you can actually show the beginning of multiverses and other, hypothetical universal configurations. Again, we're getting very close to the idea of a beginning of physical reality itself, and that's very important. There's another huge confluence, between, God, transcendent causation, and, the evidence of physics itself. And by the by, you can't disprove God from physics. We'll talk about that in other episodes, but the clearest example of that, is that, hey, look, all science is based on empirical or observational evidence. The only place you're going to get observational evidence is within this universe, and specifically within the event horizon of the universe itself. So it's a very restricted place to get observational data from. Now, how in the world, you tell me, can you disprove a transcendent cause which is completely beyond the universe, completely beyond all physical reality? How are you going to disprove that with evidence from within the universe, which science restricts itself to? Answer: you can't. You can't possibly disprove a transcendent cause from, evidence from within the universe itself, any more than a cartoon character can disprove the existence of the cartoonist from evidence from within the cartoon drawn by the cartoonist. It's not possible. So the point is, there are all kinds of wonderful confluences. Oh, the anthropic coincidence, we'll go through those in great detail in additional shows, but they're just wonderful coincidences coincidences. These are an anthropic coincidence is a coincidence where, essentially life is highly, highly improbable. You have to have the constants of the universe and the initial conditions of the universe have to be just in the right place, at the beginning, at the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago. You've got to get these conditions, initial conditions and constants exactly right. And if you do, if you don't, then life as we know it becomes impossible. No, not just life as we know it. All life becomes impossible. For example, we have, you need very, very low entropy, and I'll have to explain this in the program, but you need very, very low entropy in order to have life develop in the universe. So you need some energy, your physical systems have to be able to do work, and that means low entropy. So if you have optimal entropy, you're not going to have any work being done by a physical system, and therefore you're not going to have any life. Well, this physicist, Dr. Roger Penrose, actually discovered the odds of having the low entropy of our universe by pure chance at the Big Bang. It's 10 raised to the 10 raised to the 123 to 1 against, and that would be a double exponent. I'll make it real easy. That's the same odds as a monkey typing the entire corpus of Shakespeare by random tapping of the keys in a single try. That's not very likely. And yet that is one of the conditions that has to be in place at the very beginning of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago, when our universe expanded. Were it not there, life would be impossible. So you're saying to yourself, well, how can this be? We only have two options. You can either postulate a multiverse with 10 to the 10 to the 123 bubble universes in it or something like that, which of course still itself needs fine-tuning, so it doesn't solve the problem, it only moves the problem back one step. Or you postulate the only other reasonable and responsible explanation, and that is a really, really smart, intelligent, transcendent cause that, to put it in the words of Sir Fred Hoyle, monkeyed with the constants of physics and chemistry and biology as well. I consider this, he said, to be beyond the shadow of a doubt. So essentially what we're dealing with is all kinds of confluences, reasons for a beginning of the universe from entropy, reasons for beginning of physical reality from space-time geometry proofs like the Borda-Vilenkin and Guth proofs, reasons for inferring the existence of a highly intelligent creator from anthropic coincidences like the low entropy at the Big Bang and so forth. So there's all kinds of confluences there, but that's just the beginning of the concept, because as the psalmist tells us, right, the heavens proclaim the glory of God, and they not only proclaim it intellectually, they not only proclaim it through the laws of nature in its symmetry and elegance oriented toward life, it proclaims it in beauty, and it proclaims it in love. I mean, to look at the universe, to look at the data of the Hubble telescope, I mean, it's jaw-dropping, literally, and so we're kind of, put into an area of almost mysticism in physics. And by the way, one of the finest, probably the most famous mathematical astronomer who ever lived, Sir Arthur Eddington, put it this way. He said, there are areas of human intellection, areas of the human soul that are completely beyond the domain of science. For example, the whole area of mysticism, the area of art and beauty, and he goes on to articulate these various areas that go beyond science. But then he says, in the end, he says, even science cannot, challenge this warrant. For science itself also proceeds from an anticipation, from a light that beckons us ahead, right? Science itself comes from an intuition which is beyond science. And he says, in the end, the light beckons ahead, and the purpose surging within our nature responds.